Welcome to the Myofascial Magic in Action podcast. This is my friend Paul Thornley.
And I've joined Joanne Avison. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm bloody marvellous. It's been a fabulous week. My wife has left me. She's bogged off to Brazil. So I've got 3 weeks of cooking for myself. I'm going to be a big fat podger on takeaways. Can't wait till she comes back.
I must admit, not having Maria's cooking is a blow to anyone used to it. I envy you.
Yeah, she's a bit good, isn't she?
She's amazing. And she moves like an angel, and she's the most incredible cook.
Anyway.
Right. To floss or not to floss, Paul? And we're not talking about flossing teeth. That is the question.
But I think some people think they are flossing their teeth, the way they go about it. But anyway, we'll discuss.
So, okay, to be discussed. And as ever, it's not going to be a straight line discussion. What do people mean? Just answer me this from a neural point of view, or I don't know if it's a Pilates thing or a yoga thing or whatever. What is your understanding of what people mean when they talk about spinal flossing or neural flossing? What's that all about?
I think people believe, because they've seen it in anatomical books and they've been told that nerves run in particular directions but along different directions, and they go from a certain position in your spine, and they then venture out into the extremities of your body. And they are told that they're like ropes. And that if you pull one end and you pull the other and you move them alternately, you can floss a nerve that has become restricted or inhibited because there's some sort of adhesion or abrasion around that nerve, which is then creating a neural impingement. And to free it, you pull the hell out of it, or you move in a certain way, like you're cleaning a drain out with a rope.
Are you serious?
That's what they're told. Yeah, you see them do neural flossing with their hamstring because they've got a sciatic nerve issue, or they'll do it with the neck and they'll turn their arm out to one side, so the head will go in one direction. They'll flex the wrist to the other, and they'll try to neural floss the different variation of nerves that come from the cervical all the way down to the extremities of the hand. Now, in my book, if you take that same rope and you place it against a piece of wood and you pull it like this, you'll create a groove because you create friction. If you create friction, you create inflammation in the body, and then you amplify the neural impingement and the neural inflammation, which has brought your attention to it in the first place.
So let's just look at this other little aspect of the anatomy and hold that thought. Let's put the two thoughts together, because I'm asking you because I never quite understood this term myself, if I'm really honest.
Yeah.
I remember somebody actually practicing structural integration on me once, much too strong.
Yes.
I don't work strong. I don't believe in it necessarily. Sometimes you have to. You're working on somebody who's built a bit like a horse or a rhino, and you have to use very special. I've got a very pointed elbow, so I can use that, but it's not about peeling their flesh off.
I've experienced your elbow. I know what it feels like.
Yes, but it's profound, Paul.
Indeed it was. Indeed it was.
Give me a hard time.
No,
it's very specific. It's not random, and it's not just for force's sake.
Yes.
When I was being worked on much too forcefully,
yes,
I believe what happened was this person damaged the bursa on my ankle.
Oh.
And I was in an anatomy laboratory when I was able to see how the kind of water tube that is a bursa, if you could call it that. I know I'm being a bit lazy with my language there, but it's like a fluid. It's like a long fluid donut, isn't it? And then
like a little sack.
The tendon goes through the middle of it. And I explained it to somebody. It's a little bit like if you go to the marina and you see the big yachts, they're tethered on cleats on the pontoons. But where the rope goes round a cleat, there is a tube usually of plastic to protect the rope from chafing on the cleat.
Correct.
And in the human body, anywhere where a tendon could rub against a bone directly, and it's got different angles, i.e. at the ankle bone or the wrist or wherever, there are tiny bursas which protect the tendon from exactly what you're talking about, if I've got it right.
Yes.
To avoid this flossing process, because the bursa prevents inflammation. So
Correct.
when the bursa was damaged, I was left with it would be called ankle bursitis or whatever, bursitis in the lateral malleolus or whatever long word you want to give it. And that's a specific thing because it's the opposite of what you want. Is that not a contradiction in terms?
The whole methodology of it and the whole explanation of it traditionally, it makes no sense because of the word they put on the end of anything. They said itis means irritated, and we are self-irritating our body all the time. And once it's irritated, to further irritate it in the aim of alleviating it is just mental, because these things need to run freely in a friction-free environment.
Yeah, exactly.
And once you've established a friction-free environment, then you remove the irritation. But to create it by pulling, and it goes hand in hand with understanding what stretching living tissue and the anti-stretching characteristics of it prevents you from creating friction, ideally. But the way we move, the way we train, the way we live, the way we dress ourselves, the way we apply our movements to daily life creates irritation internally. And we have to be aware of that. We sit at our desk and our forward head comes forward. And that in itself, this little micro movement, it creates this repetitive strain, this repetitive action. And just if I rub my hands together and I do it often enough, I'll create heat. Even now I'm already feeling heat and I'm being very gentle. I don't even need to rub hard. Just the notion of motion creates heat. And that increase in heat creates inflammation. And that inflammatory process is the body's way of saying, oi, what are you doing? Pack it up so that I can heal that area, so I can de-irritate it, so you can move more efficiently again. And I think it's important that people know that these things don't run separate to each other. They're completely integrated with each other. So although that cleat goes around and it's attached to the mooring at the side from boat to dock, in the human body, it wasn't connected. It grew from it. It emerged through it.
Exactly. It's not. I was going to say that. Please don't think I'm likening the cleats and the tubes to the human body, because the rope and the boat and the mooring and the pontoon are all separate on the dock, and this is where we're all one. And this brings us to something that I love how we treat it within Myofascial Magic in Action, and that's part of where our protocols come from, is to relieve and resolve and prehab the body. Correct. So that these inflammatory responses are nurtured. And
that's a great word. We nurture the interspaces of our body.
The in-between, yeah.
If absolutely. We don't nurture the in-between, you lose that in-between space. And now once you've lost those virtual spaces and you've lost those in-between canals, if you would like, or pathways, then you inhibit motion.
And the body's brilliant, right? It goes, no, don't do this. Hello, Nino.
Big flags. What are you doing? Why are you doing that? And why do you keep doing it? And then you go to your therapist, or you go to your corrective exercise specialist, or you go to your injury specialist, or whatever they call themselves as a specialist. But these specialists, they do not understand what's happening beneath the skin. They only understand what they read in a book. And just like you use that analogy of the boat and the dock and its attachments, they take that literally. And then they treat it literally. And that's why they say, stretch your head one way, stretch your arm the other way, and keep repeating in opposition, and you'll neural floss. And that will alleviate the impingement.
It does my head in. Sorry.
And it drives me nuts, because what they do, they make it worse, because they get that momentary sense of satisfaction. Because don't we all, when you're pulling the body and it realizes its primary defensive mechanism is to stiffen, to stop you hurting yourself. And it goes, well, I better give in now. Now they've ignored that sign and they keep pulling it. I'll go passive. I will give into the tension. And you get that momentary sense of, oh. And it's the body's way of going, being submissive to our ignorance of it. And then what happens within a few hours? It stiffens again, because it gets a chance to reorganize and recognize you're now not in charge of it consciously. So its subconscious actions can just take hold and it will defend itself 10 times. And then you get this vicious circle, which is why people keep doing it. It's so funny.
And I do this too. I'm not blaming anybody, but I love it when I say to my client, okay, let's sit down and work out what you did. And they look at me as if to say, I didn't do it.
Yeah, that's right.
I do it as well. I mean, I've been to the doctors and gone, how did this happen?
Yes.
You know, when you get the diagnosis I had 2 years ago, how did that happen? Well,
that's right.
It's true. Yeah. And it's like, it's not like I'm blaming myself for it, but who else got it? Who else did what I did? Good, bad, or indifferent, with the best intentions. I didn't go out to get that sick.
Yes.
But my goodness me, when you look at the pattern of my life and the sheer pitch I was working at and the level of stuff I got done in a day and the books I was writing and the blah, 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 you're like, okay, maybe I had something to do with it. And the question is that we're not trying to blame or guilt or shame or in any way degrade someone. It's just that here's the thing, and this is one of the things I love about working with you. It's incredible, is how we come to this place of what I've come to call just honest movement or lack thereof.
Yes.
What's the honest movement? Not like, oh, no, you're not aligned. You need to do this. You're doing this wrong. The reason this has happened is because you did this wrong. That is not the conversation. You did nothing wrong. You did the best that you could at the time. But let's work out what that best was, because by following that path back the way you came, we might be able to unravel. And let's face it, Paul, it might be physical, it might be emotional.
It's most likely to be both, and more significantly emotional, because we're emotionally driven, we're emotionally influenced, and we're dictated by how we feel about things. And I love how the body, like you just said about the path, the body does literally breadcrumbs behind. It gives you so many warnings about what's happening. And we're just so used to tolerating discomfort, tolerating limitation until it becomes inconvenient on our day-to-day lives. And then we can't do the one thing that we want to do, or it's stopping us doing something that we have considered more of a priority. And then we go seeking a third party's help who has about as much knowledge as you do about yourself on the inside, because they've never seen it. They've just read more about it. And they are specialists, and they're very good. And some of them are really, really good, but the vast majority of them are treating you in a way that does not honor you and honor your tissue. And unfortunately, people don't want to honor their own tissue, and they want to hand themselves over to somebody else who treats them like they're a machine. And they're not.
Well, that's the training. I mean, you know my story. You've heard this before, and some of you will have heard me say this before. But many, many moons ago, I went skiing. And it was the first time on skis. I absolutely loathed it. I have to tell you, I was at 2 with skiing. And I had a knee injury from someone forcing my legs into lotus when I was in a headstand in a yoga class. So that's why I'm very anti any forceful movement. But I'm very bendy and I could be put into lotus. So what it meant was when I fell forward, one leg laterally rotated completely and the other one didn't. And I was in deep trouble. My knee got very, very upset. I came back to England because I declined their diagnosis of a cruciate ligament tear that needed repairing immediately. I was like, no, sorry. I don't know whether that's what it is or not, but I'm not satisfied with this diagnosis. Turns out it wasn't. But anyway, I just it was purely intuition. I went, no, I'm going home. And I went to see my doctor, my GP, with a brace from thigh to foot, wrapping my whole leg, one of these great big thick Velcro leg braces. And I walked in with this one stiff leg that was twice the size of the other one. And I sat down with it out in front of me. And the doctor was looking at my notes and looking at the screen. And he said, oh, I understand you've hurt your leg. Which leg was it? And I said, I beg your pardon?
Yeah.
He went, which leg is it? Like really annoyed with me. And he looked across at my eyes from his computer. And I said, are you serious? I said, I'd be struck off if I did what you're doing. And he went, I just want to know what leg you've injured. I thought, no, I'm not playing. If you can't even look at me.
Yeah.
Do you know, and I'm not saying that's typical. It isn't. And I'm sure he's a very brilliant GP.
Yes.
But I just sat there and I said, I tell you what, let's play a game. Let's imagine you have to work it out.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a pain in the ass, you can imagine.
I know, but these doctors, God bless them, they've got like 2 minutes to see every 1,000 people
I
a
know.
day.
And I've got many friends who are doctors. I totally adore them. And I owe them my life. I might also add. But I just sat there and I thought, if you can't work out which leg I've injured, love, you've got to be kidding. It was just, but my point is, I've never had alignment since then.
Right.
And me flossing my knee joints would just murder me, because it turns out that what I'd done was completely violated the popliteal space.
Yes.
Because I had the great privilege of staying with and working with Norbert Becker. And he is a very rare person. Dr. Becker is an orthopedic surgeon who laid down his knives and said, I'm going to work without them.
Wow.
And he was amazing. And he said that basically I'd violated the popliteal space on that knee
Yep.
virtual space as it is, but the fluid wasn't in there. So the bursal behavior wasn't able. So it was inflaming every time it ran out of wash or I crossed my legs and put pressure on that side. It wasn't spring loading and behaving the way that it should. And he injected it with a homeopathic blend of God knows what that really helped and packed me off for an MRI, which showed it was nothing to do with my cruciate ligaments. And it left me just very, very curious and able to deal with it. And it was, oh my God, Paul, I think it was over 20 years ago and it's not hampered me. Good. You've never seen me limping, have you?
No.
I know I don't walk particularly evenly. But
you have your own style of walk. You've adapted and created a different style that works
my
for you.
honest movement. My honest movement. Now,
that's right.
We were talking about this recently, your honest movement, because you're a master at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
No, I'm not. I'm a practitioner of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but I'm very good at karate.
Okay, so can I call you a triple black belt in karate?
You can say that would be truth. That would be the truth. But I'm definitely not a master of Jiu-Jitsu, because there are masters out of Jiu-Jitsu who are going, is what? And that's not true. All Jiu-Jitsu people fail a lot to succeed a little. And I'm in the middle of my journey there.
Right. Okay. You were saying about how your bias is to the side turn. And it was like, I remember because you and I were teaching somebody a couple of weeks ago in person and their face lit up when they said, oh, you mean it's all right that you're not aligned and you turn to one side? This is the key to honest movement. My honest movement includes managing a knee that doesn't quite work properly or whatever properly is. And your honest movement is a bias to one side, right?
I have to. And because for over 40 years, I turn left. I just have. And in an athletic way, because I did martial arts from a very young age of 7. I'm 53 now. And I always turn left. And I can do it really good. I defend well. If my opponent gets me the other way around, I'm in deep trouble because I don't move as fast. My timing is, of course, staggered and it stutters slightly. Doesn't happen instinctively. So I have to understand my own bias so I perform well. But this goes in life, right? People have to cross the road. And if the traffic goes a certain way that goes against their bias, that's where they get knocked over because they can't react in a timely fashion and they get taken by surprise. Or that's why people trip. They find their footing doesn't go they would anticipate it to go and it becomes unpredictable and they fall because they can't react in a timely fashion. So we all have to recognize what is our movement because we all have a bias. And I like how you call it. You have a doing side and a learning side. And we're always learning to be aware. That's the key. And I remember John Sharkey a little while ago telling me he went to a big conference about chronic pain and it was being delivered by a surgeon. He said, guys, there's just this sea of people in the river and we keep pulling them out, cutting them, patching them up, sending them on the way. And somebody says, why didn't somebody go upstream and stop them jumping in? And the surgeon says, I wish you would. He says, because we can't cope. That we're doing so many surgeries and we're having to deal with so much pain in people's lives, but nobody's preventing it happening.
Yeah.
And John would say, hey, guys, that's why you're a neuromuscular therapist. Your job is to prevent and help people prevent ending up in that set of circumstances.
Absolutely.
And be aware and inform them how to prevent it. And that's what we've been doing now. I personally, on my journey, into the 20 odd years now, I always look at somebody and say, I'm here to help you, but you want to have to help yourself because I can learn all this stuff. But as I share it to you, if it doesn't rest on you and you don't take it in, you don't utilize it, then it's a wasted knowledge.
I totally agree. And I'm very fortunate that I originally was trained by Tom Myers and he used to say exactly the same thing. Let's go upstream and prevent. And of course, structure integration is slightly different in that it doesn't deal with the pain after the effect always. It can.
Yes.
But it works on the whole body, the so-called front, back, side, spiral, deep from ground to crown. And you kind of do that anyway, and then you integrate. And the idea is that by releasing the freedom, the fluid, the bursal movement, to go back to where we started, you encourage the body to hydrate. And one of the other things that also happens is that as we complete this conversation, I think we have to remember is that sometimes just moving hydrates the body and you get this momentary relief.
Yes.
And actually you haven't dealt with the underlying cause. And I think that's why the myofascial magic in action movements and micro movements that we teach are just like medicine because they give people the opportunity to really get from their own inner awareness, the magic of their inner awareness, this sensory skill to know that micro movement is just dosing that little area with enough hydration to move, but none of this drama llama, as you would say. Flossing? I mean, really? This is just micro areas training the body. Because here, I believe the body wants to heal itself.
The body is 100% trying to heal itself.
Yeah.
It's trying to do it when it's getting the wrong help, but it's still trying on your behalf to serve you well. And just like you go to the GP, your general practitioner, they are brilliant at delivering out pharmaceuticals. They're brilliant pharmaceutical reps.
Job. Yeah.
But we are brilliant at movement. And you want to go and speak to people who are trying to become really knowledgeable about movement and how to interpret yours, watch your patterns that you've established, and make sure that it serves you, or remove it or alter it in a way that helps you change effectively. And that's where MMIA serves everybody best, because if you are having to floss something, and that's one approach, ask yourself why it requires any attention whatsoever. And it's because, like you just said there, it has become dehydrated and it's become frictionless, and there's abrasion within the tissue. And then once you have that abrasive nature, it will always create inflammation. And then you're buying the physio his next Jeep. You're funding the physio and the medical rehabilitation world's lives. And what we're offering you is an opportunity to restore that hydrating, friction-free environment on yourself. Easy. And it all comes through our 5 hours. They're just gold, they are, guys. You must understand, if you've lost the ability to rebound and spring in your step, then everything in your body is dysfunctional. So you first do that. You just get your bound back in your stride, in your bounce, in your reaction throughout the whole body. Now, there's no reason for anything. The nervous system will start to organize. It'll realize you're influencing it in a really positive way. It'll recognize where the restrictions are, and it'll give itself time to reorganize and repattern. Then we can access the rest of the R's, the recoiling to make sure you have that free energy, the releasing to reorganize the pattern, to restore the optimal nature of everything working in harmony, and then refine it so you become bloody skillful at it. And then you don't require the rehabilitation world. You're not buying their life for them. You're paying for your own.
Wow. And I love that. And the keystone of that being that regardless of your modality, and we have people in the training, don't we, of every stripe.
Yeah.
We've got dancers, we've got martial artists, we've got people from everywhere. I mean, really, really brilliant. And this work is designed to enhance what they're already doing, join the dots, give them the magic of the in-between to make that bigger difference. And I've got to say, Paul, it's an absolute joy to do it with you.
It's been great doing it, creating it, and now delivering it and sharing it and watching how other people are using it, because it just works. It's that simple. It's like we're not trying to sell something that like an old car and say it's a Bentley. It really does work. And it works so easy once you understand why it works and why it's been missing from your ingredients of what you traditionally teach. And it will help you pay attention to what you think you know and make you aware of what you need to know.
And transform the difference for your clients. On which note, take care, my darling, and wishing everybody a magical day.
My pleasure. Take care, guys.